Hello, chess fans. This weekend I actually played a tournament, which is a national tournament across Canada, and I was representing, as you can see here, the Nova Scotian team. So today I'm going to go over my first two rounds, and maybe if you guys appreciate this video, I'll go over my next rounds. This was a 9-round tournament, or 8-round. I think it was 9-round because I did get one bye, and it's a round robin, so you play every other province. So the first round, I was against someone who is approximately, I would say, around 1200 ELO. Their rating was around 900 or something like that, but I'm sure they're much stronger as, they don't play much tournaments. So they played e4, I played e5, knight f3, knight c6, and by the way, I'm around, I would consider myself around 2000 in the adult chess ratings, which is CFC, equivalent of the USCF, and in the kids chess rating, which is what this was rated as, I'm around 1800, but I can't really gain much rating because there's not a lot of people who are high rated that are kids, so I'd say I'm closer to 2000 ELO. Alright, so my opponent plays bishop c4, and I actually checked his games in the database. I noticed that what he had in the database was, after this, bishop c4, bishop c5, he liked to play this knight c3, and so I was like, okay, might as well trick him with move order, go knight f6, and then we have what I said, knight c3, which is a mistake, and already here black is actually better, and I'm sure most of you already know the move. I've gone over this in previous videos. It's knight takes e4, the center fork trick, and I got that in round 1. And so here the main move is bishop d3, and for anyone who doesn't know this, actually, this is actually the refutation of the center fork trick, because if they try to kick you away, there's this f5 move, takes, and white would have here, so you can't do that, so you would have to do I'm not really sure what you have to do actually, but I know this is supposed to be a refutation if you've ever seen this on Hikaru stream. But he played bishop x d5, which is a mistake. I took knight c3, and I played queen d8. The engine nowadays likes queen d6, but I personally prefer queen d8 because the engine likes to go queen d6, bishop d4, and castle queenside. I don't like that so much, so I played queen d8, bishop d6, and here my opponent played d3. I castle. All my moves here are really natural. Bishop e3 is another mistake because the whole plan with d3, what white should really be doing here is going rook e1, castles, and breaking with d4, putting pressure on this pawn with maybe something like queen e2 or something. He can't really afford to play this d3 move, or else he's just going to be a lot worse. Already white is here significantly worse. And alright, he plays bishop e3, a mistake. And what's the most natural move? What has he basically failed to do? He wants to play this d4 move. So how do you stop that move? I played bishop g4, developing a piece and pinning this. He played h3, bishop h5, and I was hoping for g4 here because after bishop g6, I think f5 is going to be extremely powerful, and if he would go d4, I could meet it with e4. So he played knight e4 instead. I played f5, takes here, and here I was really happy with the move I played. More natural, I think, is to take with the c pawn because you want to put your pawn in the center, but I played this queen takes move, and this move eyes this square, and it also prepares this queen d5 to put more pressure on the pin. So I felt this was a really good move. And here my opponent played a useless move, a3. And yeah, simply I took over the initiative. I played f4 to kick the bishop away from the d4 square. Here, knight d4. He played king h1, trying to, I don't know, maybe go rook g1. Here I was starting to take, and maybe play queen g6 and maybe queen f5. Here the position is really good for black. So here I consider that I could take, and go queen d5, and he'd go king g2, and I would have here, and I would be winning. But I was like, okay, might as well bring the last piece. I don't need to think that much. The engine doesn't like this move very much. c3, knight takes f3, takes f3. Already here, though, it's completely winning. I play queen d5, attacking this, threatening the fork. So if he goes c4, I'd actually be immediately winning after this. And something like this, threatening mate and threatening the queen. So he moved his king. He moved his queen. I mean, he should have gone to c2, but, can't do much there. Queen a4. I took this, rook g1. I played queen e2 because, funnily enough, this f2 pawn is indefensible. He defends it the only way he could. And yeah, from here it's just smooth sailing, and that was mate. So yeah, this was a pretty easy game against around a 1200 ELO player. I didn't really do anything that big. It's just I played the center fork trick, and yeah, it's really not that hard to play the center fork trick from here. All you have to do is develop your pieces in natural squares and go for this plan of knight d4 to put pressure on the pin, and this should win most of the time. So next round I was against around 1500 rated player, and this player actually went on to win the whole tournament and played some perfect games along the way, which is a little bit fishy, but I'm not going to accuse until something actually happens. So I played e4 like I would normally play, and by the way, I was black in the last game. In this game I'm white. He played d5, and I took that because that's the way to punish the Scandinavian. here I looked in the database, and against e5, he played, the correct response, bishop f5. So I was like, okay, can't really get anything like that. Takes, and here I prepared this knight f3 move. So this knight f3 move actually goes into a long theoretical line with a pawn sacrifice. But, I didn't know any of that. All I knew is that he plays knight f6 in this position, which is supposed to be bad. Because what usually happens is this c3 knight comes here and you play d4. But in that specific position, the d4 pawn actually comes up a lot of pressure because, you can only defend it with pieces. And often, black is able to get a knight to c6 and stuff. And, yeah, he did this a lot in the tournament and got a lot of perfect games with it. And so here, actually, I didn't really want to play this knight c3. I've never been a fan of this knight c3. Usually I would play this d4 move and sort of see what black commits to. But, alright, I played knight f3 and he plays knight f6, which in my opinion is an inaccuracy because here I can play d4, bishop g4, bishop d2. And after knight c6, well, he played e6. But after knight c6, I would play c4. And the line I was talking about, actually, you're supposed to play knight c6, d4, bishop g4, bishop e2, castles queenside. And this has a ton of games in it. And it's a really sharp variation in which white has to sacrifice a pawn, but this was an inaccuracy. And here he played bishop b4 check. And here there's a few ways to block the pawn. There's knight b d2 here, bishop d2, and obviously you're not moving your queen here or you're losing it. But so the immediate thing we can discard is knight b d2. That doesn't really make a lot of sense because you're blocking your bishop. Yeah, I'm not sure why you're doing that, so I didn't even consider that. But here I was debating between these two moves. And what I was afraid of after this move is that he would go queen a5, and I would have to go something like... What I thought I'd have to do is go here, in which case he would have knight e4. What I obviously missed is that I have bishop d2 here. But so instead, I went with this bishop d2 move, but this turns out to be a little bit slow because after takes, queen d6. Notice I took with the queen because I want to put the knight on c3. I underestimated this knight c6 move, and already here I really hated my position because black's plan is simply to castle queenside and then take this knight and win this pawn, and I didn't really see anything I could do about that. So I played knight b5 and my opponent played queen e7. Really an actually unnatural move because to any, human player, it seems that queen d7 to keep pressure on the d pawn is most necessary, but apparently he saw that in future variations, like the queen's going to come here. I don't actually understand this queen e7 move. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This move would make a little bit more sense. I mean, maybe he was afraid of knight e5, but then he could take, and castle queenside with check. So I'm really not sure why this move was played, queen e7. And here I played rook d1. So what I was thinking is that, all right, if I castle queenside, let's say, let's just see what the engine says, because, I played this a little bit a while ago. I thought here, and castles queenside, and he has a lot of pressure. And so then what I thought is that after this, let's say, he castles queenside, then I thought that, I wanted to castle queenside, get opposites castling for one. But also, I think I have ideas of, queen e3 and knight e5 when my pawn would be defended. And my king, I thought, was a little bit more vulnerable on c1. I'm not so sure actually why I made this rook d1 move. I think I was seeing ghosts. For some reason, I thought he would have a lot of pressure on my d pawn, but he didn't. So he played here. And here, I considered this knight c3 gambit for a while, but then after a while I realized that he can just take on c4. And yeah, I thought, okay, that's not really good for me. Originally I was calculating this and I figured, all right, then I should have a lot of compensation for the pawn because the b file's open, my bishop's eyeing the queen. But then I realized he could take on c4. So I played queen c3 instead. The best move here I actually didn't even consider. Rook d2. I thought this would be really weakening because I thought there was something here like a6 maybe immediately here. And I guess the rook's no longer pinned, so I miscalculated. But I didn't even calculate this move at all, really. Queen c3 takes. And from here, my opponent does like a master class in taking care of his better position here because he has a better position because his pieces are more active, my pawns are doubled and weaknesses, and it's just really unpleasant for white here. He played a6, I played knight a3. I have to defend this pawn because he's going to come under fire. h6. This move, again, doesn't make any sense to me because if you ask, a strong player, what's the best move here, they're going to say rook he8. That's simply developing the final piece. But obviously, my opponent saw further. What this move accomplishes is pretty much beyond me. I'm not sure what this move does because, there's no chance that I'm going to, try to go for this and knight h4. I mean, I guess that might have been what he was afraid of. But like he would even have like bishop e4 provoking f3, and then he could go back and like my pieces would be terrible. So I'm not really sure why this h6 move was played. I don't really think this would be a threat, especially when, you know, I always have all these weaknesses. I don't want to create more. So I castled here. He played e5, which is a very good move. Again, a more natural move would have been here, but Engine likes this one. And I played d5 because I thought that if this happens, I would just lose a pawn. But what I missed, obviously, is that I can do this. And here I would actually be doing well. But he obviously, after takes. Wait, actually, let's see the engine line. What does the engine give? Oh, yeah, you can just go back. And then, all right, this would be fine. And then now d5. And actually, I would win a pawn. Yeah, wow. This seems like a, you know, that seems like a bad line. And if this, I guess maybe he was thinking of, wait, e takes here? Takes, and all right. The engine still likes black because I have this terrible knight here, but he had doubled pawns here, so I think I could hold this one. But d5, a little bit of a miss. Rook fe1, activating my final piece. He goes here, I go h3. And here he makes a really weird decision to take, and e4, which is like most players I think would play like bishop h5. It looks a lot more natural to me because you have all this pressure on the pieces, and this knight is really just going to get kicked around. So, but he took, which I think is also pretty natural. And here he played king b8, and I played rook d4. And here my opponent thought for a while and played this c6 move, which is the engine's favorite move. And yeah, the c6 move is a very excellent move because it puts pressure on this. And what I was thinking in the game is I thought that I could go d6, but actually d6 would just not be a good move because the pawn would get weak. And I don't know why I thought d6 was so good in the game. I, for some reason, thought I could get a quick c5 and his knight would be trapped, but he can play c5 here. And yeah, this is simply what I had miscalculated. So, but I go rook e d1, and here my opponent plays another brilliant move. So see if you can take a while here to find the engine's favorite move, which, you know, my opponent played, obviously. Alright, so if you're taking your time, the engine's favorite move is actually the c5 move. And yeah, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense to do this, only after the rook e d1. He had to play c6, know that rook e d1 is coming, and then play c5 right after. This move came after like a minute think, and then this move came after like 5 seconds, which is like, you know, pretty suspect. I guess he was predicting this to happen. But c5 is really an excellent move. After I go back to d2, he plays e3. This another great move here, and already it's becoming very difficult to hold. My weaknesses are very pronounced, and I have no activity. So I played f takes here. And yeah, here I was already pretty angry of myself because I didn't really see where it had gone wrong. I assumed that this whole d5 nonsense back here was wrong, but I really hadn't seen where I've gone wrong in this, and I was kind of getting a little bit tilted because this 1500 player was completely outplaying me. Alright, so here I went king f2, my opponent rook d8, d6, and yeah, I went d6. I tried to create some counterplay. Here I know I was lost, like he has so much activity and I have absolutely nothing. d6, and yeah, here my opponent plays the perfect engine line to convert. Rook takes d3, d7, rook d8. Again, doesn't really make a lot of sense why he spent, you know, 14 seconds on pretty much an only move. I mean, any other move you move with your rook, you lose. So I was confused at why he was thinking at this one. Knight b1, rook takes c4. Here I went king g3 defending my pawn, and I didn't really see what I do. Again, you know, any human plays king c7 and just, you know, tries to win this pawn with rook d4 right after, but alright, knight c6. I guess knight e5 is coming. Also kind of natural. I went rook f1. I tried to take this pawn. And yeah, I mean, he played f6, defending the pawn. King, I went back. He played king c7. I went rook d3 here. And again, like, he was spending some time on this move. He spent a while on this move, which is, you know, kind of weird. And then he didn't go rook d4 here, which didn't make a lot of sense to me because seemingly this is just an easy win. After rook a4, I went knight c3. And now guess what's funny about the position. After here, after this, only now after I've played knight c3 is somehow rook d4 the best move because I can no longer take because I would get forked. Very nice conversion by my opponent. Knight d5, king x d7, takes, rook g3, king e6, knight f4 check. Here I was hoping for, you know, something. There's knights on the board. Maybe I can get something. King f7. knight h5, and again, my opponent ends the game with the engine's favorite move, g5. And so if we look down here, you can see the account, and, well, you can't see the account actually, but my opponent played 14 center pawn with 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, and 0 blunders, and he managed to do this against the other top players at the tournament too. So yeah, a very good run by this 1500, and an unfortunate loss for me against a lower rated opponent, which turned it out to, I still did pretty well, but you know, obviously you have to come back from this loss. So that's the end of today's video, guys. I know I might have been like, you know, a little bit less energetic than usual because I was really like, it's, you know, it's hard to share a game where you lost and your opponent, you know, played much better than usual. I'm not accusing him of anything, but I'm just explaining he played much better than usual. And so that's the end of today's video, guys. If you liked the video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys probably in round 3-4, though I did have a bye in round 3 or 4, I forgot. And so next time we'll see you with some of my best games of the tournament.